Yeah, so this will be a follow-up on the last video that I did about the octogenarian retards not adhering to objective reality. So if you haven't seen that video, it's linked down in the description below. I don't even know where to begin. It's fascinating as well as bewildering to watch. I have some theories, but nothing concrete. I almost pity the poor media who spent the last several years ruining their own credibility, lying through their teeth, also falsely duping the public into voting for these cretins that are now wreaking havoc. Now, the media are just looking at the polls, and these Democratic politicians they get on, they show them over and over again the polls, borderline begging them, would you for the love of God address these issues, you blind bastards? And the politicians are so dismissive and will obsessively talk about abortion and January 6th to the point where I'm starting to think it's also driving the media insane. Evidently, the destruction of their own credibility also pertains to the eyes of politicians. It's just so damn funny. I've been racking my brain trying to figure out why they're like this. I would have thought the main component is the arrogance of enduring longevity, that you've been on this track for so long, and when somebody comes and tells you, yeah, those tracks are now blown to shit, if you ride them, you're gonna ride off a cliff, and those concerns get waved away under the guise of past experience or the delusion it can never bite them in the ass. Now don't get me wrong, I definitely think the senility in drugs is definitely warping their perspective of something fierce, without a doubt, and yeah, they will definitely pull some shenanigans, but not like 2020, I don't think. And being in Washington with your head up your ass isn't gonna help you see sense either. But there's a couple of things I want to address, and some things will bleed over the next video that I'm doing. When it comes to the left, you have those in power who will wield charm and false promises, opportunists, people like AOC and those types, what have you. Then you will have the gullible morons. These are the people who are brain-dead peasants who know absolutely nothing, especially about economics. They have two talking points: tax cuts for the wealthy and corporate greed. That's it. Every single problem with the economy is blamed on those two things: inflation, energy, wages, you name it. It is always the fault of everyone else but benevolent Big Daddy government. Now let me explain why the left's policies are such a cancer. The entire goal of all leftist policies is to get you dependent on the state. That is why they do handouts. That is why they push public schooling. Because if you're dependent on the state, they will have your vote and they own you. Leftism does not want independent, free-thinking people. It wants obedient slaves it can whip. Now, aside from the fact that this is making a serf class, these policies are seen as helping the less fortunate. Now, obviously, they don't do that, but that requires thinking far beyond the brain-dead attention span of your average voter. And so removing these government spending habits become political suicide, and so they don't. Look at the Democrats now. Every dime Republicans try and starve the beast. It's, oh, they're coming for your Social Security and Medicare. Never mind that it's causing inflation to go into tailspin in sixth gear. It's going to cost us votes and power. That is all these politicians care about. And you can see this because none of them are addressing the spending. Now, obviously, basic economics, it's not hard to understand, but there's a lot more to it than just taxes and corporate greed, neither of which has anything to fucking do with inflation, by the way. Inflation is too much money chasing too few goods. It's because the entire world's money printer went brrr during the coup period. And so you have inflation. It's amazing to see so many dumbass politicians go, oh, it's a global problem and we aren't that bad. Yeah, but you still did the same stupid thing that caused inflation and you're still doing that. Like all the idiots who moan that big oil isn't investing in drilling more oil, when the doofus Stewart, who thinks he's president, said he's going to get rid of fossil fuels. That'd be the reason why, you imbeciles, try investing in a sector the government is openly declaring it wants to kill off. See how that works out for you. Couple that with a smaller supply of oil and an ever-increasing demand as the economy begins to open back up, and oh my goodness, suddenly the price of energy is skyrocketing. I can't figure out why. The other major fuck-up Biden posted was him boasting about passing student debt relief. No, he didn't. It was never brought to the floor in Congress. He didn't pass shit. That was a straight-up lie. As far as I know, it's still tied up in the courts because they were trying to push it through the executive. Recall a while ago, Biden said the pandemic was over and his aides panicked and recanted his statements. It's because the debt relief was contingent on there still being a pandemic. No pandemic, no emergency relief. Bye-bye youth turnout. This was a deep act of desperation because you will notice he didn't mention the student debt relief at all in his little midterm campaign for the Democrats because it was never passed and it's never going to get passed either. But there's a curious issue with this that I want to bring up. Recall the 32-point swing for independent women who are now breaking 18 points in favor of the GOP. Bear in mind and take this with a grain of salt, because the sample size I think was less than 100 women, so it's nowhere near that high. But even if it was only half that, that's still a 2-point lead for the GOP. Now, I don't have any evidence for this, so do take this one with a grain of salt as well. But I have reason to believe that move is a trend that will likely continue, and I'll tell you why. If you push more women into the workforce and more of them potentially become the breadwinner over time, they will take on more masculine qualities and their economic concerns will begin to be elevated above all else. Abortion will drastically drop further down the list, I will guarantee you that. They bust their asses same as everyone else, and they will look at the inflation and the taxation rate and think, I don't give a damn about abortion right now, the only thing that's fucking me is the government. Can I abort that? Sure, says the GOP, welcome aboard, and the GOP will further gain independent women. I could be wrong, though let's pray I'm not, otherwise it'll give me further ammo against the XX variety, and at this point in time I have a stockpile that will shame North Korea. But I'll end it all with this. Now I know no one is going to look at it like this, except me, because, outsider with a top hat and all. But you dumbass Democrats, you are making the mythical Trump authoritarian figure that exists only in your head seem pretty cool and quite viable. If you have a party like the Democrats right now, who do absolutely nothing right, who's been utterly destructive, top to bottom, some people will ask, why do you exist? What's your function? Why should anyone ever give you power? You're a hell walking and you leave nothing but ruin in your wake. And here is where I radically depart from the conventional wisdom, because I utterly reject the notion of the two-party balance dichotomy. That is complete bullshit. Look at this picture here. You don't want balance because it's inherently unstable. You want stability, which is to load it heavy on the right. Load it on the left, you go off a cliff. That's what we have now. Look at the Democrats. The ones with sense are running away from Joe Biden's policies. Why? Because leftism is an utter failure. It's always been, always will be. There's nothing redeeming about it at all. Now we have this return to the center, which, cut the bullshit, is just moving further towards the right. Why play with a side which will always want more power that will dunk you off the cliff? You can make your case of needing balance to prevent one side from becoming, drunk with power, sure, but your argument becomes void when what you attempt to balance it with intends to never stop accumulating power. The current Democratic Party is that. It needs to die a fiery, painful death, preferably with shrapnel from a trusty old cannon. And that is all for today. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.